how to set up Google Analytics 4 on your website. In this video session, I'm going to simplify setting up Google Analytics for your website. Now, before we move on, keep in mind, Google Analytics 4 is the latest for 2022. It allows you to capture mobile app interactions as well as website interactions, whereas previous version called Universal Analytics allows you to capture web interactions. So that's the main difference. Also, depending on the type of content management system that you're using, you may not be able to use Google Analytics 4. As we can see on this table, Google sites can use GA4, WordPress can use it, also WordPress.com hosted websites can use it. If your website is, let's say, built on Shopify and you're thinking, you know what, how do I use Google Analytics 4? Then simply use Universal Analytics, because Shopify store is not an application. Make sense? Also, following the techniques that I will share with you, you can actually use the same techniques for setting up Universal Analytics as well, okay? So let's get right into it. Simply make sure that you're already logged into your Google account and then visit analytics.com.google. Then from there, what you need to do is find the admin user interface. The way Google Analytics accounts are structured is that you can have multiple accounts if you so choose, and you can have multiple properties within a single account. So if you're a small business owner managing your own website, then simply have one account, one property. And if you're a small business owner, let's say you have 5 different websites, then you can still have just one Google Analytics account and then create 5 different properties to easily manage analytics for your websites. Okay, so I'm actually going to create a brand new account. Google Analytics allow you to have, as we can see, maximum 100 different accounts. So let's say test account only. It's very important that your website has clear terms and conditions and privacy policy for using Google Analytics. So therefore, it's only in your best interest to learn about the requirements set by Google, because basically you're collecting data from your website visitors, and depending on the setup that you have, you may collect sensitive information as well. And different countries around the world, such as in Europe, data regulations are different. In California, it's different, and so on. So you need to understand these before you start using Google Analytics to avoid getting into any sort of an issue, okay? So here, account data sharing settings, you can always, hover over the question mark icons and you can read more about it. So I'm not going to cover that. Here it's saying, okay, you know what? Do you want Google account support team to contact you? Do you want technical support? How about benchmarking? Do you want to contribute your data for Google to further improve Google Analytics? So it's up to you. If you want to select any of them, you can. So let's, for time being, leave that as it is. Account name, as we can see, is required. Then let's press next. Here we're just giving a property name, sample property. For my example, surely for your website setup, you should give a logical, meaningful property name as well. It could be, let's say, your website name as an example. Here we have reporting time. You can select it or leave default. It really doesn't make much of a difference unless you are managing a large website and thus you want to see the reporting time according to your location. So you can set that here. Furthermore, you can select different currencies if you so choose, because with Google Analytics you can tie it up with your Google AdWords account. Furthermore, you can modify your tracking capability, as in tracking code, to track certain values according to what you're offering on your website. Here it says show advanced options. Let's press on that. Now this is the tricky part, because here it says create a universal analytics property. That means if your content management system can use the next generation of Google Analytics, which is Google Analytics 4, then you can actually use the previous version in conjunction with the Google Analytics 4. So that is what that option is about. Should you utilize it? Yes. If you are not going to manage apps and you're going to manage websites, it's smart to utilize Universal Analytics property, because it gives you the analytics gives you the option to use both. Okay. Here it says, okay, how about your website? Which website would you like to track? Let's simply give the path to our website. Let's say .au. I want to create one for the Australian version of RankYa, which is recently came back online. As we can see, .com.au there. So I can now say, okay, you know what? I want to create an account for this. In fact, anytime I want to make changes, I can press the previous step and say, you know what? I want to change that. Account for RankYa Australia site. Let's say site. Let's now press next. Here I'm saying, okay, property for this website. Once again, creating universal tracking property alongside with GA4, which is Google Analytics 4. I can use both, but I don't have to if I don't want. And I suggest to you to actually use it if you're tracking a website. So here it says create both a Google Analytics 4 and a Universal Analytics property. Okay, so the main difference is Analytics 4 allows you to track web and mobile applications, whereas Universal Analytics is for tracking website user interactions. Here it says enable enhanced measurement for Google Analytics 4 property. You can learn more about it. It's only in your best interest to allow that. But once again, it is absolutely important that you read through Google's terms and conditions. Here it says, you know what? You can create both, or you can just create the Universal Analytics property only. So let's create both. Let's press next. Here it says, you know what? Tell us about your business. What industry are you in? Here, let's say for RankYa.com.au, I am in business and industrial, or perhaps I can say computers and electronics, online communities, and so on. So for your industry, you select the appropriate one, okay? So here, business size, RankYa is a small business in Australia, so I select this, but if you're managing, let's say you operate a large business or medium-sized business with 50 employees. If that's the case, you select medium. Okay, straightforward process. Let's fly through it. Here it says, how do you intend to use Google Analytics with your business? Check all that apply. Surely optimize my website and app experience, measure customer interactions. If you are running Google Ads, perhaps you want to say, you know what, I'm going to help you, Google, because you're providing this free service for me. So you select the appropriate one and let's press create. And now comes the terms and conditions. So I'm not going to read through it or even explain what this is, but it's smart to read through it, learn what how you can use Google Analytics, especially in 2022, where Google is very, very strict. Okay, so I am accepting the terms and conditions because I'm familiar with Google Analytics. Now, as we can see, the user interface is a little bit different. And our Google Analytics ID starts with G-, whereby previous version started with UA. So now, because we have enabled enhanced measurements, the latest next generation of analytics goes ahead and automatically tracks a lot of different things. You can read more here, okay? Including site search, because all that little information will allow you to, better optimize your website according to user interactions. Here, video engagement. Since RankYa makes how-to tutorials, how great is the new analytics? It also captures video interactions, okay, because we have enabled enhanced measurements, but we can also disable it if we want. We can always press on the gear icon and we can actually see what analytics will be tracking automatically for us. And now comes the tricky part, meaning there are various different ways for us to right now grab the tracking code and add it to our website. We can press on this site tag. We can highlight everything and place this on our website. We can use Google Tag Manager. If you're using Google Tag Manager, simply follow the steps accordingly, okay? The easiest way is to grab the code and add it somewhere on your website. Now, most websites are built on Cpanel, so I'm going to show you that option. When you're logged into your web hosting account, you press on File Manager link, browse into where your website theme is located. We're looking at a typical WordPress installation, and we browse into WP-content. In there's themes folder. Within that is our current theme. Now, there's two places we can place this code. One within the head section of HTML, or we can actually place it in the footer section. In 2022, since Core Web Vitals are important for Google rankings, I suggest to you to place it within the footer section of your website. Before closing of body element, you can simply copy the tracking code from your Google Analytics and simply paste anywhere before closing of HTML body tag. You could easily place it in the head section of HTML if you want to choose that, which is a recommended option by Google, you can simply paste your tracking code before closing of head tag, okay? So this option is recommended because Google Analytics will start tracking as soon as someone lands on your landing page, whereby if you place it in the footer section, then the tracking won't start till the entire web page loads. But as I've said, I recommend that you actually place it in the footer section if you're a small business owner and you're going to utilize Google Analytics, perhaps sparingly, perhaps less often. Makes sense? But if you're managing your clients' websites, then perhaps you can place it within the head portion, okay? So I'll place it either in head portion, that's recommended by Google, or place it in footer section. So don't place it in two different sections, just one. So here, let's press on more tagging settings here. Let's take a look at that, because I'm going to show you a trick here. Here it says collect universal tracking events. You may want to turn that on. Now, once you make these adjustments, you can say, okay, I'm using the latest version, but I can also track events using the previous option. RankYa website shows you how to track links using Google Analytics. Furthermore, I'm going to show you the code on RankYa website to see what else you can do. Don't be overwhelmed with all this code, mumbo jumbo here, but rather take a look. We are using the next generation of Google Analytics. As we can see, it starts with G-, but also I'm using the previous version of Analytics. How do you utilize this? If you are creating Google Analytics for the first time, then just follow this option, that because you won't have a different property, previous property. But if you used Google Analytics and you think, you know what, I want to try the next generation of Google Analytics, and you still want to continue using the previous version, then you don't have to load two different scripts. Just load the latest one and only include the configuration tag for the previous version of Analytics that you used before, okay? But if you haven't, then now you know how to set up Google Analytics to track your website and web applications. As we can see, there are more tagging options available to you. You can configure domains, you can adjust timeout sessions and all that stuff, and I won't cover all them here. Now, Google Analytics can be complex if you've never used it before. My suggestion to you is simply tinker around, read through the help section. Anytime you are thinking, you know what, how do I use it? Basically, you use Google Analytics to analyze user interactions, so then you can make improvements. Also, it's a great tool that you can connect to Google AdWords as well, so you can make them work together, as well as create remarketing lists just using Google Analytics. It is a very powerful tool. At the same time, it can be complex, and it's going to take a bit of time and effort for you to work around it and truly utilize. I thank you very much for learning with RankYa. If you benefit from this video session, please do give it a like and share it, and I'll talk with you in the next video session.